Hey free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. So a lot of us, including maybe yourself, right, we are all stuck on the 7th difficulty of Pneuma Analysis. Now this is extremely difficult and the gap between the 7th difficulty and the 6th difficulty is insane. So here in the 6th difficulty it says Insight 2 level 25, but over here it says Insight 2 level 40. It seems like there's just 15 levels of difference, but it doesn't feel that way. In fact, it feels like this is a lot stronger and I cannot really understand why that's the case. So in this video, in order for us to understand why this content feels so difficult, even though it's just 15 levels of difference, which is honestly not much, right? But I can guarantee you that by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why this content is so difficult and the reason why you cannot clear content and how you can actually beat certain content. Now, I'm not confident that by the end of this video, I can beat Pneuma Analysis VII, but I'm going to try. So towards the end of this video, we're going to give this a shot according to some of the things that we have learned in this video, or at least the things that we are going to learn in this video. Now, you can see over here, yes, I do enjoy spreadsheets. I don't think I'm really good at math. I just enjoy the mathematics involved. So we want to find out some facts and figures. So what I did is I ran Pneuma 1 a couple of times, or at least 3 times, with varying degrees of reality defense. So I ran with no damage reductions at all. So I didn't cheat or let any other external factors come into play. So everything here is just raw DPS based on the different defense levels that I have. So I gave Mr. Apple 271 defense, and these are the damages done by this guy that you can see on the right, this Squidward thing, with a very sus pink thing over here. And after I've recorded all of these damages, I went on to change up my kit a little bit, give myself a little bit more defense, ensuring that I'm not adding any extra damage reduction factors. And you can see that the damage that the enemies are dealing are also recorded over here, but you will notice a very funny trend. So when I continue to increase my defense further again, you notice that the damage that we are receiving is exactly the same as when we had 271 defense. So that sparked a lot of interest and that opened all the rabbit holes, and I decided to just deep dive and figure out what's wrong over here and what's happening. And I got the answer, so you guys just sit back, relax. Let me explain to you this process. I'm going to skip a lot of things so that it's not too heavy for you. Just want you to understand that there are certain factors to consider and some things to take note of before I reach the conclusion. If not, you can just go ahead and skip to the conclusion. You can find the timestamps anyway. Okay, next, I went on to a more difficult one just to test out the defense again. So I went to Pneuma 3. So I went from 271 defense to 309 defense to 359, 465, 553, and I noticed a trend. Can you see the trend over here? You notice that the damage from the right to left is actually decreasing, which is, it's supposed to happen, right? Because the defense is going up. But once I hit 465 defense, I noticed that the damage that I received start to stagnate at 85, for example, for hit butt. I mean, this is not his actual skill, this is just whatever that I recognize. So it does seem like the damage is decreasing as our defense is increasing, but it gets capped eventually. It is very important to know that it gets capped eventually, and I will give you the easiest understanding of what's happening over here later on. Okay, so eventually I went on to Pneuma 4 before I eventually gave up, and this was way too much effort. So from 271 defense, same defense levels by the way, across the board, you notice that right now, the damage starts off a little bit heavier, but it doesn't taper off eventually, or does it? So we're actually going to find out in this video, or at least in like the next 30 seconds. Okay, so I did a chart for these two situations in Pneuma 3 and Pneuma 4, and I just charted everything down. So from our reality defense over here to the base multiplier. And what I mean by the base multiplier, do not touch my things. What I mean about base multiplier is, for example, over here, headbutt does 126 damage at 200% multiplier, so the base multiplier will be 100% at 63. You guys might be thinking, is it literally 1 for 1? Do I literally just divide 200% by 2 and therefore the damage by 2 as well? Yes, you can see for yourself, all the numbers are literally 1 for 1. You can divide it equally and you will get the exact output over here. Now, so for Pneuma 3, in 2 of these defenses recorded, you can see that the base multiplier, which is the 100% multiplier, is kept at 42.5. You can see it over here as well, right? These two numbers at 100% multiplier, they are exactly the same, which means somehow we had enough defense to make sure that they are dealing the least possible damage to us, which is not 0. So in this case, it's 42.5. And just ignore this projector part for a minute. So including all of these 6 points over here, we can actually draw a chart. And you notice that the chart looks super weird. There is a kink over here. And why is that the case? So what's actually happening here is, as our defense is going up, the damage that we are receiving is actually going down in a linear fashion. You can see that I even managed to derive the formula for this particular equation, this line over here, And once we hit a certain point, which is the kink, that is the projected defense over here that is going to give us the least amount of damage that we can receive. So once we hit 363 defense onwards, we are going to receive the least damage possible for this particular boss, right? Pneuma 3. And the same is also true for Pneuma 4, but one very interesting change over here is that while the enemies are getting stronger, you notice that this graph actually works a little bit different because you can see here 1.0921 as opposed to Pneuma 3, which is 1.0658. So clearly there is a difference in the angle of the graph. Now, why this is so important is because this changes the interaction between your defense versus the enemy's attack, or rather the enemy's damage. So this number here is extremely important. I don't really understand why this is the case. I would have assumed that this number is supposed to be exactly the same, and in fact, I would have assumed that defense didn't work linearly. I thought it was going to work as a logarithmic model, which means the more defense you have, the worse it gets. But that's not the case. The more defense you have, just the literal better that it gets. So in conclusion, these are my 5 findings. Number 1, defense reduces damage received linearly, and this is very good. This means that defense as a stat is extremely valuable in this game. Extremely valuable. So like I said, in most games, the higher your defense, the less powerful it gets, the less impactful it gets. But not in this game. The higher your defense is, the better it gets. Until, of course, you reach the cap, which is basically the kink over here. Now, conclusion number 2, harder enemies are more affected by higher defense. So for you math heads out there, if you want to understand, in Pneuma 3, 1 defense protects you from 1.0658 damage, but in Pneuma 4, 1 defense protects you from even more damage, 1.0921. So it's kind of like 3% more, which means that as we are progressing to Pneuma 7, 1 defense is going to give us a lot more protection than just 1.06. It's going to give us a lot more protection than 1.09. I haven't actually calculated that just yet, but I'm going to assume it's probably maybe around 1.2 damage per defense, which means defense is increasingly important as you progress through more difficult content in this game. Now, point number 3, damage floor does exist, as you can see over here, this flat line. Then conclusion number 4, damage do not have spread. So all the damage that we are receiving in all of the tests, they are all fixed. I've never seen like me receiving 58 damage and then 57 damage and then 56, for example. No, it's always 57, 57, 57. There is no spread. The same is also true for your attacks against enemies. All of your damage will be fixed according to your skill multiplier and according to the attack stat that you already have. Or maybe even a crit as well. But I did make sure to not include any critical hits that my team receives, and that's why the graph looks super clean. Now, conclusion number 5, skill damage multipliers are final damage multipliers, which means a 300% damage skill will do exactly twice the damage of 150% skill, for example. Okay, so those were the 5 conclusions, and why this is so important is because we're going to make use of this information, which is essentially knowing that defense becomes increasingly important as you progress towards the end game. We're going to use that fact to build my team, and that means changing up a lot of stuff, which means giving my DPS characters, or rather Eternity for example, a lot more defense. And the way that we can do it is maybe not by changing up her Psy cube, because
it's always good to have you.
Alright, chill out. Maybe not her Psy cube, but perhaps her resonance. So the thing is, we're going to remove everything, and we're only going to include stuff that gives us a lot of defense. And in particular, we need to focus a lot more on mental defense. As you can see over here, the boss does mental damage, which means we need to have a lot of mental defense. So characters like Alien T might not be very good because his mental defense is low, or we can try to give him a little bit more in that regard. So we are going to primarily focus on, oh my god, come on, Eternity, give me a chance, man. We're going to focus a lot more on mental defense basically. Okay, so we have mental defense here and some HP. We might want to include that. We have damage taken reduction plus 1%. We might want to consider this. Damage taken reduction plus 3%. Yes, please. Yeah, I just had like a massive big brain moment or something. I'm not sure. But I managed to squeeze in as much as possible. So right now we have not much, 9% damage taken reduction. We have 45 mental defense. Oh my god, that's so fail. And 621 HP. Okay, so hopefully this is enough. Well, fingers crossed, I hope we actually manage to succeed this time. Now, next character, Sonato, we're going to give her a lot of mental defense as well. Okay, so we have 8% damage mitigation, we have 41 mental defense, it's like whatever. And as for Mr. Apple, we have 6% damage reduction, we have 44 mental defense, and a little bit of HP. But I mean, of course, we can level him up a little bit as well. Okay, so let's take a look at all of our character stats once again before we start. So here are the stats of Eternity, and of course we have another 9% damage mitigation. We have Sonetto over here, 8% damage mitigation, blah blah blah. Alien T, I didn't touch his stuff because I feel like you don't really need him to survive all the way to the end. And finally we have Mr. Apple as well. Okay, so let's start and let's see whether can we even get this done, right? Now, pro tip for you guys, we can always just restart like that for free in case we have a very bad starting hand and we want to shift things up a little bit. So in this case, this is not bad. So we can just buff up and deal some damage. Now the thing is, the enemies here are split between physical and, okay, not reality damage and mental damage. This guy does reality damage, this guy does mental damage. So depending on what you prefer, depending on what your stats are, you might want to focus on one first. So I think for me, my mental defense is a little bit lower, so I'm going to destroy him ASAP. Something like that.
And this gives power to... Hey! Sempre caro mi tu quest'ermo cole. Bit hot here.
Alright, pretty decent first wave. Let's move on to the second wave. And now, a lot of RNG is centered around whether the boss gets a lot of attacks in or not, especially every other turn, because every other turn that he takes, he has this extra effect over here which dispels all kinds of controls on himself, perfect stance. So at the start of every 2 rounds, purifies all stats down negative status and control statuses from the caster. So every other round, depending on how many attacks he has, that might kill us. Okay, so for this round, he is not going to purify anything, so we can actually disarm him using Alien T over here. So that's what we're gonna do. And try to take out the ads first, I think. I think it's more important to take out the ads because that reduces the number of actions that the boss can potentially take in the end. So I think that's gonna be the goal. Okay, please do not get a lot of... Oh my god, he got 2 attempts. So that cannot be prevented or we cannot disarm him because like I said, he has perfect stuns over here. This is literally just too bad, right? Oh, nice, we have a 2-star buff. Very cool. And just a little pro tip for you guys. You see that these 2 cards, they look different, right? The shinier one is a 2-star card and the white one is a 1-star card. That's what it means. Oh shit, I should have buffed a taunt. Oh shit, my bad. Oh, there goes Sonetto. GG. Ow, 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 ow. Oh my god, it hurts so much, dude. Even with all the magic, the mental defense that we had. Oh no!
It's useless!
It's useless indeed! This is just way too hard. Okay, so we need a lot more mental defense, which means we need more levels, Psycube levels, everything. Major rip. Okay, now, but the thing is, in my opinion, did we lose today? No, I don't think we lost because I made you guys learn a little thing about the game, which is learning a little bit about the mechanics and what you can do if you want to do better into the future, which is completely proven by facts, okay? Proven by stats as well. So I know we lost this time around, but I think all we really need to do is to just gain a few more levels and we should be able to just snowball really quickly because like I said, the damage scaling that the enemies do will be linear. So the more defense we have, then the enemies will do directly less damage, which is really good for our sustainability. So if we had another 100 mental defense, for example, it's gonna be super easy. Okay, so anyway, that's it for this video. If any other questions, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below. If you want to know any other kinds of stats in this game, let me know as well so that I can provide that information for you. Now, if you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Reverse 999 content. Now, with that said, this has been Dairy Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.